On today's show, the Boston Celtics are NBA champions. What does that mean for the LA Clippers? How are teams going to combat the champions? It's a copycat league. So how are teams going to look to either copy or combat the Boston Celtics? And with two score-first wings, the Celtics became the first team of that nature to win the championship without a point forward or one central point guard. The LA Clippers have a similar build, but what's went wrong? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On, back from Cancun Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and currently in my just finished my 19th season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more NBA and sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, never behind a paywall. And I want you to subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification bell so you know every single time an episode is posted. Let me know what you think the main differences are between the Boston Celtics and the way they've built around their two score-first wings that aren't the best playmakers and passers versus the way we've built through our score-first wings that aren't the best playmakers and passers. So, in this episode, before we get to it, it is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. But let's talk about it, right? There are a couple differences that I think the Boston Celtics have with the LA Clippers, besides the franchise history. Let's throw that out the window right now, right? Okay, Celtics have their 18 rings now, and the Clippers have never even made it to the finals. But that has nothing to do with the current day, right? So, the first and most obvious glaring thing is that the Celtics stars have been healthy and the Clippers stars have not been. Now, let's rewind, right, to the summer of 2019. The Clippers get 2-1-3. If you look at NBA history, there have been no teams, and I've mentioned this so many times on this show, there have been no teams that have won a championship with their two best players being like that, building around two score-first wings that one of them isn't really considered a point forward. Their best attribute is clearly scoring the basketball, right? When you look at two wings that have won championships together as the best players, because in the 60s, it was the Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell era. So they're the only guys that were the best players in the championship team really in the 60s. And if you want to throw John Havlicek in there for those last couple of years of the 60s, Bill Russell's still one of the faces of the team. They're building, it's his team, right? In the 70s, you still had your Wilts. You still had your Willis Reeds. You still had Dave Cowens as the faces of these teams. You know, maybe the one exception is that 75 Warriors team with Rick Barry, but that was kind of a one-off. I mean, the face of that team is really Rick Barry. It's really one guy. You know, Jamal Wilkes was a rookie. I know they had some other guys. I haven't quite gotten to that year yet, so I haven't really seen the ins and outs of it. Then in the 80s, Kareem and Magic. You know, the big three of Boston in the front court. The main reason, the first duo we get to, that's two score-first wings, two wings that are the best players, clear-cut, end of story, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. But the thing about Pippen was, when Phil Jackson came and introduced the triangle, you had Scottie Pippen serving as more of a playmaker, as more of a point forward, right? Fast forward to the 2000s. You still have teams led by bigs. You know, Tim Duncan wins in 99. Shaq gets a three-peat. Tim Duncan wins again. Then you have the Pistons, who aren't even built around any focal point in 2004. Then you go back to Duncan, Wade and Shaq, back to Duncan. And then you have Pierce, Garnett, and Allen. The figures of that team are Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Ray Allen, clearly the third guy on that 2008 team. Then, of course, Kobe, Powell. So then we get to another two wings, Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. But when we think point forward, LeBron James is like maybe the first person that comes to mind. Besides that, we've never seen anything like this. So we've never seen anything quite like this, where there's two score-first wings that are not point forwards. When the Clippers came together, we were like, you know what, though? This is positionless basketball. Because there's a reason why Kawhi Leonard and Paul George didn't play together initially. Because remember, the Indiana Pacers drafted Kawhi Leonard a year after they got Paul George. Back in the 2000s and in the 90s, they're both small forwards. They're not playing power forward. And they're too tall to be shooting guards. And in Kawhi's case, he's too bulky to be a shooting guard. These are both small forwards back in the day. But now you really have three positions: wing, big, and guard. Now there are some wings that can also have guard skills and stuff like that. Hell, there are some bigs that have some guard skills. But it's really just those three positions for the most part. So when the Clippers put Paul George and Kawhi together, they're like, well, Paul George is just going to play the two when he's going to be a very tall two. So it's really all about, like, the true point guard that sets up your offense, that runs the show. That doesn't really exist in today's game, because it's all about who can create the most offensive advantages, who is most frequently drawing two to the ball, and thus putting the other team's defense in rotation. And with the current spacing of the modern NBA going small and putting a bigger wing out there as your four, instead of a guy that's like a rebounder, post player like back in the day, maybe mid-range guy, that now changes the space on the court for your best players. So when the Clippers put that together, the Boston Celtics were like the young up-and-coming version of the two amazing wings. And mind you, this is Kawhi Leonard coming off being on top of the basketball world, the mountain. Finals MVP on the best team, right? Paul George, established player in the league, coming off his best regular season in 2019. And that first year, the Celtics made the conference finals. We blew the 3-1 lead. But the Clippers had way more expectations than Boston that year. And I would say, even though we lost in that second round to Denver, I think we were better than Boston that year. We split the season series 1-1, and there were some amazing duels, including Jason Tatum kind of going at Kawhi Leonard in that second one in Boston. And I remember I was in UMass. That was the most heated Clippers-Celtics game in my time at UMass. I was watching the living room, me against the world. That was a dope time, but we didn't win that game, so it wasn't that fun. Then in 2021, the Jays didn't really have a good supporting cast. They had lost Gordon Hayward. Kemba Walker was washed. Al Horford was gone. And the Clippers got to the conference finals. So at that time, it's still the Clippers are championship contenders. The Celtics are still this up-and-coming team. And then 2022 kind of changed this. And there's no Clippers-Celtic rivalry or anything like that. There's no Clippers-Celtic comparison being made. But I think it's very interesting from a team-building standpoint, because their two best players have the same functionality in terms of their roles on their team as them. And people had the same conversation about the Celtics. Their crunch time offense bogs down into isolation. Where's the true point guard getting him into their spots? All of this was said about the Boston Celtics. All of it. Right? And the Clippers. 2022, Kawhi's out the whole year. So it's essentially not really a year for the Clippers to even have the conversation about Kawhi and Paul George. How close can we get to a title? The Celtics, on the other hand, they started the year out terribly, and then they got Derek White and hit that insane second half of the season stretch. But what I saw in the playoffs that year was Jason Tatum was guarding Kevin Durant, like, majority of the game. Now, they were switching everything. That was the one thing that was interesting about the Celtics in that series against Brooklyn. And in that playoffs is they would switch everything with Horford at the 5, Tatum at the 4, then they had Jaylen Brown, and then a really strong defensive backcourt of Marcus Smart and Derek White. So they had some point of attack guys, but they also had Tatum really stepping up on defense, particularly in that series against the Nets. But the Bucks series, that was a lot of Grant Williams guarding Jason Tatum. So essentially, they just had a lot of good defenders around those two. But they fell short, right? They made it all the way to the finals, and they fell short. And you felt like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they just weren't quite ready yet. Especially Tatum in that series against Golden State really wasn't good and showed a lot of the same problems that we say about Paul George. Settling too much, not using his size enough, not making things easy for himself, over dribbling on the perimeter, constantly playing face up with 10 eyes on him, not leaning into the mid post. Two guys that say that Kobe Bryant's their favorite player, yet they just don't do anything. But the one negative thing about Kobe was, shot selection at times, taking some tough shots. But the difference is with these guys, they have the spacing. That's just Kobe sometimes had to take tough shots because otherwise the alternative was, throw it down maybe to someone else in the post like Kwame Brown, he played with other guys, but throw it down to the post for a contested shot. And of course, there were times where he didn't give it to a guy for a role player for an open three. And, you have to debate the decisions on that in the moment watching a game. But my point is that they only do one aspect of Kobe's career, and it's a negative kind. They don't lean into the mid post. They don't start their moves inside the arc. So it's very interesting with both of them. But the main difference, before we even get into 2023 and 2024, which is really where the Celtics kind of found the formula. It really started at the end of the 2022 season, but they really found the formula of what succeeds around the Jays. But I'll tell you what the biggest difference is between the Celtics duo and the Clippers duo, besides the youth. Kawhi just hasn't been healthy. Imagine if Jason Tatum was injured all these times. Yes, he got injured in Game 7 against the Heat. That was one game. Jaylen Brown missed the 2021 playoffs. And they got smoked in 5 games by the Nets. So at the end of the day, health is the most important thing. Before we discuss anything, there's nothing to discuss besides the health of our stars. That's the main difference. But coming up, I'm going to be giving you what I believe is the biggest reason why the Boston Celtics have succeeded. Actually, no, the biggest basketball reason besides health that the Celtics have succeeded more than the Clippers and what they have done that we have not. Going to be talking about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style. eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, so the Boston Celtics are the NBA champions. They have a similar build. Their 2 best players as the Clippers. But I'll tell you the main difference. It's not the offense, in my opinion. It's really not. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown still have the ball in their hands more than anybody on their team. And Marcus Smart, when they had him, and even Derek White is a combo guard. They're both combo guards. None of them are the best playmakers. I'd say Marcus Smart was the best passer on the team when he was on it. But he wasn't somebody that you really trusted all the time making decisions. People were saying they needed an upgrade at that position from Smart all those years. So they didn't really have the point guard thing situated, right? But Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were, as far as I know, we're never talking about we need a point guard. They're okay with accepting the ball handling responsibilities. Kawhi and Paul George don't want to. And I understand in Kawhi's case because he really likes to play in the post and the mid-post and the mid-range, and I love that, which is a little bit more similar to Kobe. If there's anybody that actually – see, and Kobe said that, before he passed away. He said that I love the way Kawhi Leonard plays because of the spots he operates in. And the way, that's the biggest compliment right there from him. And I agree. So the thing about it is Paul George, for a guy that wants to dance in the perimeter so much and wants to face up so much, he's always the one that doesn't know what he wants. 2021, he goes on all this, or after 2020 bubble, he goes on all the smoke talking about I was being used like JJ Redick. Then 2023, I'm okay with ball handling, but it would be nice to have someone else take that off of me. Okay. It's like you just don't know what you want. Clearly there's a middle ground But that middle ground seems very hard to find. Because let me bring James Harden. I'm not saying he's making an excuse that he was out of rhythm, but at times it felt like he was too much off the ball. So it's just very hard. It really just goes to show that Paul George, he is not as flawless as a lot of people from the outside think he is as a basketball player. But I'll tell you what I believe is the main difference between the Clippers and the Celtics in the last couple of years. What's the one thing I mentioned in the last episode? For people that don't know, I talked about that the Clippers' defensive rating the last 2 years has been what's the term? Bottom half of the league, right? The Boston Celtics were third in defensive rating in 2023 and also third in defensive rating this season. Second the previous year. They have become a great defensive team. And that's for multiple reasons. But the main reason, the thing that they had the Clippers don't have, elite point of attack defenders outside of their duo to alleviate the pressure from those guys defensively. Now, Jason Tatum still plays the 4. Hell, he was guarding the 5s in the postseason this year to switch that pick and roll. The Clippers don't necessarily have that luxury with Zoo in because Zoo's not necessarily quick enough to guard non-bigs in the league. So that's more, and we didn't have the small ball personnel this past season to really go with lineups that had that defensive versatility that the Celtics have per se. But let's just say we do have Kawhi at the 4, like they have Tatum at the 4. But they have two of the best defensive guards in the NBA on the same team. They had it with Smart and White, but they upgraded with Holiday and White. So as good of defenders as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are, and Jaylen Brown was the one that guarded Luka majority of the finals. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are good defenders too. But they don't guard the best players every night on purpose to save themselves for the offensive end. And the Celtics, I mean, when they get stops, you put all those guys out there that can handle the ball and shoot the 3 in transition, they can be tough to stop. But the main thing is, they let the Jays play help because they have elite point of attack defenders. That way you're not in rotation as much defensively, don't have to work as hard defensively, and you can save your energy more for the offensive end, which you want the ball in these two guys' hands the most anyway. But the Clippers abandoned that when they went for James Harden. They said, no, we want someone to have the ball more than them. And we took away some point of attack defense in Nico Batum. But our point of attack defense wasn't strong enough last year. And that's the thing that really, really angers me about the 2-1-3 era. And it angered me from the start. They were talking about who's going to score on us, all this stuff about our defensive personnel. This isn't Kawhi Leonard of 2014 defensively. He's not Kawhi Leonard of 2014 offensively either. He's a monster now that can go out and score 30 every given night. So he's the guy we want, and I want the ball in his hands the most. I know James Harden's a one-of-one playmaker. I still want the ball in Kawhi Leonard's hands more than anyone. Just like the ball is in Jason Tatum's hands more than anyone for the Celtics. It's the new NBA. Your best players always need the ball the most. They do. I don't even know. See, there wasn't tracking data on that back in the day, but like, I would like to see the ball might have been in Rajon Rondo's hands more in 2008 than Garnett or Pierce. It might have been, but I would love to see stats on that. There might be tracking data for that. I don't even know. Probably not, though. Time of possession. Usage rate is not time of possession. That's what I'm talking about, is have the ball in their hands the most. But it would be really nice if we had elite point of attack defenders outside of Kawhi and Paul. All we have is Terrence Mann and then Russell Westbrook, who you just don't know what you're going to get. And Russell Westbrook and James Harden the coaching staff didn't want them to share the court much at first because of offensive purposes. Then they realized that with Harden playing the minutes he's getting, if you're only staggering them, Russ is not going to play much and then he's going to be unhappy. So they played together, and it had some good moments with those baseline lobs, but defensively I don't think it was great. And the main thing for me is that the Celtics have elite point of attack defenders around the Jays. We're not a very good defensive team, and I think having defensive personnel with Kawhi and Paul. First of all, Kawhi Leonard is a defense-first competitor. He always preaches that into the floor, and he goes out and performs and in terms of his defensive effort every single night. He performs. I've rarely said that Kawhi was lazy on defense tonight. Like, it's very rare. And that's honestly one of the biggest compliments that I could give a star player, if I'm being real. And it's not even about Kawhi's ability on defense, because he's one of the best wing defenders that we've ever seen if you go back to his San Antonio days. It's just the effort level about it. It's just the effort level about how locked in are you on that end of the floor on a nightly basis. But the thing is, he's our best player. We don't want him guarding everybody the whole game, all the best players the whole game. We needed to upgrade there. I just don't think Terrence Mann can do it all on his own. And I love Terrence Mann, but I don't think against the quicker guards he is great enough navigating screens. I don't. I think that it puts Zubac in a lot of positions where he has to guard two players at once, and we don't keep guys out of the paint enough for me. So that's the main difference. Are we going to be able to fix that? I don't know. But coming up, the last thing that the Celtics have that we don't have, and if you're watching on the visual, you know what it is. But for the audio, it's an offense thing. I'm going to let you guess. By the time we come back, I think you'll know. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Summertime means baseball and international tournaments in soccer and the Olympics. And you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet everything from the finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. That's FanDuel.com. Yikes. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right. To close it out, the final thing that the Celtics have that the Clippers just don't have. And by the way, as far as the stars go, the Jays get downhill a lot more. That's one thing the Clippers just don't do enough of, and it's because they're older. Celtics are younger. Jason Tatum is literally a couple months older than me. Jaylen Brown's like a year or two older than me. They get downhill a lot. If you watch the finals, Jason Tatum didn't have a good shooting series, but he was able to get 2 feet in the paint at will. A lot more than Luka was. And that puts the Dallas Maverick defense in rotation, and he was making good passes. The problem with the Clippers is we're such a great three-point shooting team. James Harden is usually the one that puts 2 on the ball, and when he and Zoo are in that pick and roll, he gets us good shots. But at times we don't get, without James Harden, we don't get 2 on the ball enough. We don't get Paul George and Kawhi are not getting the step on guys, not getting to the paint, not getting by their man that's attracting help. It's not happening enough. But the main thing that the Celtics have offensively, the Clippers don't have. And by the way, I just wanted to say about Drew Holiday and Derek White, they still do the playmaking and take some pressure off of them in that respect as well. They're just extremely rare players that aren't growing on trees where they can play make and hit the three, and they're decent without the ball, and they are just, one, extremely selfless, and 2, can handle the ball, can make plays, and are elite defensively. But the thing that the Celtics have that we don't is stretch bigs, and they have 2 of them. Kristaps Porzingis, who's like the picture definition of a stretch big, and Al Horford has been a pretty good pick and pop big since he was in Atlanta, but he's expanded his range over the last 10 years in the three-point epidemic or whatever. And that's something we don't have. And that makes it hard to guard Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the pick and roll, because if you're playing drop coverage, you're conceding a wide open 3. And if you're staying attached to your man, then they're just getting downhill. It makes them very hard to guard. And I know a lot of people want to stretch 5. I think we don't need a stretch 5. But I'll tell you what, it would be nice to have one of them. It would be nice to have one of them. Because the thing is, the Celtics, they have us 2 stretch 5s, right, with Horford and Kristaps. But they don't have a guy that's good enough, as good on the interior defensively as, I think Porzingis is a good rim protector, but not as good as Zoo. Zoo's so much stronger. I think Zoo's a better rebounder than anybody that the Celtics have. And Zoo's a better low post player than anybody that the Celtics have. So he has qualities that certain players on the C's don't have. But what I'll say is this. We have 2 bigs that don't really stretch at all. Not even to the mid-range. At least you can have a pick and pop mid-range. which Jokic does like all the time, for example, and even Embiid. Harden and Embiid with that pick and pop was like insanely hard to guard. Embiid would just shoot that shot from the foul line. But the Clippers have neither. Mason, Plumlee, and Zoo, that's just too big that are going to lurk in the dunker spot. You know what I'm saying? And for guys that can't get to the rim enough, in Kawhi and Paul, it would really help to have a pick and pop big to make the defense think just a little bit more. They're all going to play drop coverage and hope their point of attack can stay attached. Stay on their hip, Paul George and Kawhi's. And Kawhi is not the best at, getting over screens and on offense, of course. Getting over screens and getting the step. Defenders usually seem to recover with Kawhi. Paul George is a little better at turning the corner. James Harden probably being the best on our team. Definitely the best, I should say. But that would really help Harden too, having a stretch big, at least one. Could Kai Jones be that guy? Is he going to get enough burn? Daniel Tice, the thing about Daniel Tice is he showed some potential as a stretch big, at least picking and popping to that foul line, and even shooting a decent percentage from three for a while in the season, but then we didn't go to Daniel Tice in the playoffs against Dallas, really. And that was one of the most controversial things about the Clippers, Ty Lue's decisions in the playoffs, was that Daniel Tice didn't get any burn. But he shot 37% from three in the season, albeit on low volume, just 1.2 attempts per game. But he gave us a little bit of that. Is that something the Clippers should invest in? I know people think they should, absolutely. All the comments you're going to say they should. But who's good enough, right? That's the thing. Can Kai Jones be that guy? I just don't know. I feel like he's unproven, and the Clippers aren't going to play a guy that much like that when they're in championship or bust mode. But we'll see. I could be wrong. They have talked about getting younger and more athletic, and Kai Jones is definitely athletic and younger. We'll see. But yeah, the main differences between the Celtics and the Clippers: one, their stars are younger and healthier. Two, they put point of attack defenders around the Jays to alleviate the their defensive load, and then offensively, it also basically decreased their load there because they're two-way players. And then they have two stretch bigs that made it very hard for Dallas and everybody that played them. Let me know what you think. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more NBA. I'm going to see Lionel Messi play this week, so that should be fun. You're going to catch a video of that on my channel, Copa America. I will be there. So we'll see all that all summer. WNBA stuff, Clippers stuff, free agency stuff, and of course, Locked On Clippers is your place to get all things Clippers, any news on your favorite team, or if you're a fan of another team and you just want to see what's going on with the Clippers, by all means, we welcome you as well. Right here on Locked On Clippers. Hit the notification bell so you know every single time we post a video. Let me know what you thought about the things that I said, the biggest differences in your opinion between the Celtics construction or performances and the Clippers. And man, I had one thing I was going to say that I totally forgot. I guess that was it. Check out the episode I made about Jeff Van Gundy. Clippers getting Jeff Van Gundy if you haven't. But yeah, the Celtics are NBA champions, beating the Dallas Mavericks that we lost to in decisive fashion. Now, I think we would have been fully healthy. We would have been a better matchup for the Celtics, but it's woulda, shoulda, coulda, right? They won the championship. Congrats to them. And it's possible now. We've seen a team win with 2 score first wings. You just need to create enough offensive advantages. Oh, here's what I was going to say. Yeah, let's try to build up the subscriber count for Locked On Clippers this summer, man. Let's get us up to 10K. Let's catch up on these teams. Everybody says the Clippers have no fans. Let's prove that wrong. We've grown so much in the last 2 years since I've taken over as host. When I first started, we were at 200 on YouTube. Now we're at 5K plus. So let's keep on going, guys. It's all about you. Legendary Clipper Nation. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.